So, welcome to Geek B&B, the podcast where 2, 3, 4, however many guys sit around talking about whatever. If you found us, you probably already have an idea what the friggin' show's about, right? So, anyway, before we get started, there's one thing. Let's see, we are, I want to tell everyone about our first giveaway.
Fantastic.
This being our first Batman episode, we're going to be giving away the deluxe hardback edition of The Killing Joke, which you can see behind me here.
Ooh.
Unless you're listening to this as a podcast, in which case, pretend that you can see it behind me. Anyway,
over your left shoulder.
Yes, over my left shoulder. Unless you're listening to this while you look in a mirror, then it's over my right shoulder.
Right.
So all you have to do is subscribe to the podcast and then send us an email letting us know that you subscribed. Then next Sunday, April 1st, we're going to put the names of everyone who subscribed and emailed us to let us know into a hat, and then we're going to pick a single winner. And if you'd like a second entry in the hat, go to our Facebook page and share the link for this episode on your Facebook page. And make sure to tell us that you shared the link when you email us. So again, we'll email the winner the following Saturday. If you already have The Killing Joke, get it anyway. Give it to a friend or a coworker, or use it to introduce a friend or a coworker to the awesomeness that is graphic novels and comics. Impress that girl over in accounting, or I'm not even going to say the department I work because I'm going to get fired. So again, subscribe to the podcast using whatever service you use to get your pods from, and then send us an email letting us know that you subscribed. And for a second chance to win, go to our Facebook page and share the link for this episode on your own page. Easy peasy. And our email address is geekbnb@gmail.com. Again, that's geekbnb@gmail.com.
This is just a question for me. I don't listen to this stuff really, but am I eligible to get this prize?
You are allowed to enter. However, you are not eligible to win the book. I will send you a black lab about 6 years old.
Fantastic. I'm looking forward to it. FedEx that bad boy.
I'll just bring him to work. Actually, I'll just let him loose in the parking lot. You can find him. It'll be fun. It's like Easter. I'll dress him up like an Easter egg, and you can go find him.
Absolutely.
Anyway, with us tonight is none other than all-around awesome guy and turning into a show regular, Mr. Pat Turner. Thank you for joining us tonight, Pat. How are you doing, man?
I'm doing great, thanks. Thanks for having me again.
No, thank you for falling for that thing that we sent you, and now you're here again.
Ha.
I
was going to say, next time you want me, just ask, and we can avoid the zip ties and the gag.
It's
chloroform's expensive,
but I paid for all the zip ties and the gag, and I did sanitize it at least once.
Well, I appreciate that.
Although this is the first time that I ever used it in anyone's mouth, so that was new.
Ew.
Anyway, so this episode is about Batman, and specifically The Killing Joke and Year One, and that stems from my own. I've always loved Batman. I always liked the whole Batman thing. As far as he's not like he doesn't have any superpowers, because I've never really been into superheroes. But I like the whole idea that he's just stupid wealthy and then just goes around meting out justice dressed like a bat, whatever. But while I love the concept, it was like so rarely pulled off decently and interestingly. You know, it's like I didn't care for the Michael Keaton movies. I know someone's gonna do whatever, complain about that. But the Chris Nolan movies though were like, oh my god, it was like finally like a decent iteration of Batman, you know. And after seeing those, I was like, there's got to be more Batman that's decent out there, right? And I also like the animated series from back in the 90s. I thought that was awesome. But then I discovered these comics, the Killing Joke and Year One, and they were just awesome as far as like getting more into Batman and like enjoying like just really good storytelling centered around the whole character of Batman. And Commissioner Gordon, Jim Gordon, I've like loved Jim Gordon in this. Like I suddenly had like a new respect for him. So that's why we're tackling these two as kind of like a gateway drug into more comics and more Batman for the casual fans out there. Now, Pat is I would safe to say a pretty serious fan of Batman, a hardcore fan of Batman.
Yeah, I've enjoyed the comics. I have not read anywhere near all of them. I've still got a lot to go, but I did enjoy Killing Joke. the bits of year one that I've read, I enjoyed. I also had the Long Halloween, which I'm working my way through. Death in the Family, the new 52 version, and of course Nightfall, which is phenomenal. Probably one of the best comics ever written. So, still a lot to read, a lot to watch. I mean, it's such a huge franchise. I mean, with movies and TV series and the animated movies and plus all the books, there's just so much. But it's a good gateway into it. So
Yeah, it's intimidating when you first say like, "Hey, I want to find out more about Batman. I want to like maybe get into the comic book," and then you find out there's 9,000 issues of Batman, and then you've got Detective Comics, which is 9,000 more issues of Batman, and then you've got there's like I think 2 animated series, and then you've got the Adam West thing, and then you got all the '90s movies, which were just train wrecks. Thank God the Geneva Convention like put most of those where people can't get to them.
Michael Keaton.
Screw that. I hate those movies. I went back and I rewatched the first one because I was like, maybe it's really not as bad as I thought it was. But I actually wound up taking notes during the movie about just how terrible the friggin' Michael Keaton movie was. I don't know. It's
I actually started enjoying them with the movie with Jim Carrey and Tommy Lee Jones in, which I believe was Batman and Robin. Or Batman
I believe
Returns.
that's the first time anyone in using English, the English language, ever uttered those words in that order. But go on.
I'm sorry. I believe it was Batman Forever, and I really enjoyed it. I thought Tommy Lee Jones. You've got it's a whimsical movie. It wasn't supposed to be your Dark Knight or anything like that. It was supposed to be something a little more lighthearted, a little funner. So I actually enjoyed that movie. Of the original 4, I actually probably enjoyed that one the most. And then obviously the Christopher Nolan trilogy just blows anything previously out of the water. So,
God, yeah, it's I just rewatched them. I think like last week, prepping for all this stuff, and I was like, my God, they're just like they're so fantastic. Like every single aspect of the. I watched the first 2. I didn't watch the third one again, just because I didn't have a week to kill.
Wasn't that long?
My wife would be mad at you. My wife would be furious. That's her favorite.
It's not that I didn't like it. It was just long.
It is long, and I think she just has a thing for Tom Hardy. So,
well, I love what's her face, who was playing Batgirl or Catwoman, whoever it was. What was her name? Anyone.
Oh,
Jessica Lange. It was Jessica Lange.
No,
Jessica Lange.
No, it was God, brain fart. That girl,
Yep,
not the blonde girl, the brunette girl.
Yes, the brunette girl. Thank you. It's the brunette girl that does movies.
Anyway. It'll come to me in a second.
Yes. Okay. So Pat, I'm always interested in hearing how hardcore fans of anything first found what it is that they're fans of and how they evolved into like a hardcore fan. So what is it about Batman that drew you in more than say like Superman or Spider-Man or me?
Well, I touched on it a bit on the Walking Dead episode where I'm a big believer in your comic books have to have good bad guys because the heroes, I mean, yeah, they fight crime, but your bad guys have to be interested in it. So the Joker drew me in first. I am a huge Joker fan. He is, for me, probably the greatest comic book villain of all time. So I ended up just loving the Joker. Then obviously the Christopher Nolan movies, when they hit, were phenomenal as well. And I actually have a friend at work. He came to me and he's like, "Hey, look, I've got pretty much all of the Nightfall series. If you want to read them, feel free to read them." So I took them off of him and ended up just giving him money instead of giving him the comic books back. And I couldn't put them down. They were great. And then I actually got a list, and this kind of touches on what we were talking about earlier with how intimidating it is. I actually got a list of the complete run of Nightfall and where it goes, and it touches into Catwoman, her own comic. It touches into Robin's own comic. It's in Detective Comics. It's in the Batman comics. It touches the Showcase comics. Like, it is throughout maybe 6 or 7 different comic book series, probably close to 150 different issues of this comic book. If you want to read every single piece of this story, it's a bitch to track down. Like, I still haven't finished it all. And you can buy the omnibuses, which I believe there are 3, and that gives you the complete basic story, but like it doesn't have the Catwoman issues. Where, in all honesty, in the Catwoman issues, she mentions the Nightfall story kind of in her own storyline. There's not actually anything that adds to the story, but because the story is referenced so heavily, they include them in the list. And I'm one of those guys, unfortunately, that likes to collect an entire thing, so I have to track them down. And it just became a bit of a hobby. It's actually what first got me into collecting single issues of comics, and then Walking Dead kind of pulled me along with that, along with some other Saga and stuff like that. So.
Yeah, I noticed about the Nightfall thing, because you had recommended Nightfall to me, and I was like, oh, and you said like get the individual issues because there's more into it and everything like that. So I hopped on eBay and I found someone selling Nightfall, and I was like, oh, great, Nightfall. And so I ordered it and I got it, and it's like 9 comics, and it says Nightfall 1, Nightfall 3, Nightfall 5. It's got that on the cover. I'm like, why is it going like odd numbers? Like, what's up with that? And then I started looking in and I realized, oh, the rest of that Nightfall series, like every other one, is told in Detective Comics, and then there's like 2 more comics that are referenced in that, and that's just the beginning part of Nightfall. And then after that, it gets into, like you said, like 150 more issues. And I was, I'm not gonna lie, I was like on the internet looking at this, and I was like, God damn you, Pat! Like, God damn you, because you know what's going to happen is, I'm going to be on eBay for like the next 2 years tracking this shit down. Because like you, once I start something, it's like I got to finish it. I want to get all of it. So thanks.
You're welcome. Honestly, you will be thanking me because it's such an awesome story. It's fantastic. It's actually the Bane story from The Dark Knight Rises. It obviously they changed a lot of stuff in that, and you don't get the entire story. But it's where Bane breaks Batman's back, and Batman ends up effectively replacing himself with a Batman who doesn't have his morals and has no issue with killing people, and just doesn't have the Batman sense until Batman has to come out of retirement to try and stop him. So it's a very, very cool story. I'm sure you will like it.
A buddy of mine back in the day, like I'm going back like 25 years, he was really into Batman. And there was one series that he was reading where Batman had like 245s. He ran around shooting people. Are you familiar with this? Was that part of that?
I am not. I'm trying to draw back my memory. I'm not familiar with that, but that doesn't necessarily mean that it's not part of this. Like I say, it's a huge series.
Oh yeah.
And then after this, it goes into a series called Azrael, which is
Azrael. I have no idea what it's about, but I've heard of it.
That follows on from the Nightfall series. The guy who takes over from Batman actually ends up as Azrael. So
interesting.
You're going to have to read them as well.
Yeah, thanks. I appreciate that.
You're welcome.
I was wondering what I was going to do with.
Yep.
That
by the way,
$100. Go ahead, Brian.
Catwoman is Anne Hathaway. Thank you.
Yes.
And then
that's Shakespeare's wife. You're thinking of Shakespeare's wife.
Officially, Dark Knight Rises is only 12 minutes longer than The Dark Knight. So I'm not sure what you're watching. So,
but The Dark Knight was freaking fantastic.
Okay, fine. Like, it's not like the ending of Return of the King.
It's literally like the only Batman movie I have on Blu-ray of that trilogy. Although I do want to get the first one, but I mean, as soon as it came out on Blu-ray, I had to have it because, I think like
serious.
The Joker is just so.
The Joker makes that movie. Like going back to the villain makes the movie, and I'll be honest with you, when Heath Ledger was cast as the Joker, I actually remember the day when it was cast. I was back in England. I was standing in one of my friend's kitchen, and there's a movie magazine called Empire over there. And he comes in with Empire magazine that had just been delivered to his house. He got it every month, and he holds it up, and it's Heath Ledger on the front, and it said the new Joker. and my jaw dropped, and it was so perfect, and people weren't sure how he'd do, and I'm one of the guys that can honestly say I had faith in him from the beginning. He was just going to be so perfect for that movie, and he really does. He made that movie.
Just like Michael Keaton.
Oh my God! Get off of Michael Keaton.
He's right here.
I know. I hear him gasping for breath. Anyway,
yeah,
and when I heard that Heath Ledger was going to play the Joker, I'm not going to lie. I was one of those people that was like, "What?" Like the guy from 10 Things That I Hate About You. You know, it's like I know that he's a good actor. He's done decent things, but I was like, "Is the Joker?" And I just could not see it. I couldn't imagine it. And yeah, then when I watched it, I mean, I forgot that I was watching Heath Ledger. You know,
right?
I mean, it was.
That's a good actor.
Yeah, he was fantastic.
Let me ask you this: since we're doing our Batman special, what were your first thoughts when you heard Ben Affleck was going to be the new Batman?
Sort of the same thing that you felt about Heath Ledger. I mean, I immediately there was like all that hate and everything like that. Like, you know, are you kidding me? But Ben Affleck is a decent actor, and when you look at all the other people who've played Batman over the years, you know, I thought, like, give the guy a fair shake, and he can act. He's decent at things, especially as he's getting older. I thought that that he might pull it off, and I thought his performance as Batman was good. He was ripped. I mean, Jesus Christ, he had like muscles on top of muscles. It was like insane. He had like this itty bitty little tiny head on just like this massive body now. That being said, I did not care for Batman versus Superman as much. What did you think of it?
When he was first cast as Batman, my friends they know what a big Batman fan I am, so they wanted to, try and provoke a response out of me. And my instant reaction was, I think this is probably the best move for him and for the franchise, because you're coming off of Christian Bale, who is probably the best Batman ever. And the next guy is always going to have a rough time. So we cast somebody who is hated by comic book fans for Daredevil. Whether or not it was his fault, I personally think that he did a good job at Daredevil. The story just sucked.
Mm-hmm.
So, he's hated. He's either going to tank, in which case he says, hey, I didn't lose any fans. And now, Warner Brothers turn around and say, hey, you know what? Whoever followed Christian Bale was always going to do worse. We'll bring somebody new in now, and they'll do better than Ben Affleck. Or he's going to do awesome. And that's, somebody at Warner Brothers gets a pay raise because they picked the right guy, and he gets back some of his fans. So it was a win-win for everybody involved. I thought it was really good casting just for those reasons. And like you say, he's a good actor. He does some shitty roles, but I don't ever feel like he's the one that makes the role shit. It's always just not good writing.
I think he's a victim of just choosing bad movies. Because when he does give a good performance, he gives a good performance,
Right. Was Daredevil really that bad? I mean...
Yes.
Oh, okay.
But I enjoyed his performance in it. And...
yeah.
I was going to say, and I kind of enjoyed the movie. It was entertaining, but I'm not going to lie. No, I just didn't care for it. I'm
one of those guys that I honestly, if I never watch it again, I won't be fussed. But if it's on, I'm not going to turn it off. It wasn't that horrible to me. I'm a Daredevil fan, and it was just nice to see Daredevil on the big screen. I have 3 kids. I don't get to watch the TV show and keep up with it on Netflix as much as I would like to, just because of the violence in it. So, it was nice at that stage to see him on the big screen. And I don't think Ben Affleck did a terrible job. I don't think he made the movie suck.
Actually, I agree.
Actually, to be a good Batman, all you have to do is go, I'm Batman, and you're in.
Yeah, it's very true. It's very easy to be a good Batman. It's very difficult to be a good Bruce Wayne.
True.
Yes.
Batman's easy. Bruce Wayne's difficult.
Exactly. You've just got to have a chin for Batman, and you're set.
And look wistfully at the theater or the tombstones, and think back and the whole dream sequence back, and so. But
funny story. So my wife and I were back in England when they were actually filming The Dark Knight Rises. I'm from Nottingham. There's a place in Nottingham called Wollerton Hall. I turn around to my wife and I say, you know what? Today we've got two choices. We can either go to the castle or we can go to Wollerton Hall. She's like, I want to see a castle. I said, okay, we'll go to the castle. Went to the castle, had a great day, came home. I got on the internet. They were using Wollerton Hall as Wayne Manor while filming that very day. We'd have been there while they were filming Batman. She's never lived that down. I was furious.
I'd divorce her.
Well, I wouldn't go that far, but
no.
Okay, fine.
The movie's going to leave theaters, but she's still going to be there, right?
Yeah, that's true.
But it's very cool for me watching that movie to look at Wollerton Hall as Wayne Manor and think, you know what? I used to play soccer every single weekend with my parents on Wayne Manor's front yard. So it's pretty cool for me.
Until your parents were shot with a BB gun leaving a theater, and now you're scarred.
Right.
You moved to the States and you fight steel in Michigan. Anyway,
this is true.
So what iteration of Batman do you think best captures what you love about Batman? Was it the Christopher Nolan one from the movies, or is it like something from one of the graphic novels, one of the animated series?
Adam West.
Honestly,
Adam West.
It was the Christopher Nolan movies, specifically The Dark Knight. Like I said, I think if Heath Ledger would have lived, I think we'd have seen him in The Dark Knight Rises. I think we'd have seen more from everybody involved, because I just think him and Christian Bale just played off each other so well. And the part where Joker's hanging upside down telling him, you just can't kill me. It's so perfect for them, because they can't, they need each other. You're not going to have a Batman without a Joker and a Joker without a Batman. It's just the best rivals in comic book history. So
a lot of people say that, and I hear that a lot, how like they need each other, and the Joker says that a lot. But I think that, as like an agent of chaos without any rules, and he kind of like exists. His whole existence, Joker's whole existence, is a reaction to this guy dressed up like a bat, trying to put things in order. Dressing up like a bat, trying to dole out justice in alleyways in Gotham City. But anyway, I don't know. I get the impression that Batman could probably live the rest of his life without seeing like anyone, villain or not, dressed up like a maniac and wreaking havoc over the city.
But I don't think Batman could kill him to make that happen. I don't think Batman could live with that. So this guy is already here, and Batman cannot bring himself to ever kill him. So he needs him to live, because otherwise, what would he be fighting for if he's doing the same thing that the other villains are doing?
Yeah, but then he escapes and he kills a bunch more people.
Yeah.
And it's like that whole. Although I understand, because if he does kill, then he becomes that which he is fighting against.
Right. There is one problem that I have with that movie. When he's in that room full of people and he's trying to confess to being Batman, and he's standing there and he's screaming, I'm Batman, I'm Batman. You mean to tell me not one of those guys said, oh, Bruce Wayne, he's Batman, and started spreading the word? Somebody must have heard him,
Yeah, and somebody who heard him probably also said, well, that kind of makes sense, because who else can afford this crap in this city? So,
let me ask you guys this. Have either of you ever heard of the, I believe, I've never actually seen it. I believe it is a movie, an animated movie, where set in an alternate universe where actually, instead of Bruce's parents being killed, Bruce gets killed in the alley. And his dad ends up becoming Batman, and his mom ends up going crazy and becoming the Joker.
I have never heard of this.
That rings a bell.
I believe it is a movie, and maybe somebody can write in and let us know. If it's a comic book, I'd love to read it.
Did somebody actually make it?
Yes, I believe it's been made.
Yeah, if anyone listening knows of this movie, definitely write us and let us know. Drop us a line or tweet at us or go to our Facebook page.
For some reason, I want to say it's called like Flashpoint Paradox or something along those lines, but I couldn't be sure of that.
You say it, and it's like I want to say that it's familiar too. Like I want to say that I've heard that, although I could be, completely insane.
Right. See, this is the thing that I love about comic books, because we all know the Batman story, but then somebody has this crazy idea of, what if he died and his parents became the two most iconic people in the Batman franchise? And let's write a story about that, and they can do that, and we as the readers buy it and love it and love seeing the alternate stuff. Like there's a Justice League comic called The Nail, where Clark Kent's parents, the day that he crash lands, they go to get in their car to go and find the meteor that just crashed, and there's a nail in their tire. So they say, you know what, we're going to leave it for the morning, and they go back to bed. And in the morning, when they get up and actually go, the comic's gone, and Clark Kent never becomes Superman. He never joins the Justice League, and it's about how the Justice League still forms without him, but this gaping hole that's left there by Superman not being in it. And as the reader, I love reading that. This what if, the what if Venom possessed Deadpool, the what if there were 1,000 Hulks. There's so many what ifs in comic books that are just fantastic.
That's a great thing about fiction, I mean,
It is.
You can just rewrite and think about it and use them as thought experiments, and explore all sorts of different philosophies and I don't know, like social issues, psychology of this stuff. Like you said, like what if Superman was found by like terrible people? What if he was found by the Manson family and raised by them?
What if Superman landed in Nazi Germany?
Yeah. What if he became like a Nazi?
Uberman.
Then we'd wind up with the election of 2016. I mean,
that's true.
All right, let me get away from that. Okay, so let's talk about Year One for a moment here. Year One appeared as a storyline in the Batman comic books way back in 1987, and was written by Frank Miller. Many characters and aspects of the plot were used in Nolan's Dark Knight trilogy. It's really the story of Bruce Wayne's first year back in Gotham City after being away for he was, I think, like 11 or 12 years training and all the skills that he uses to become Batman. But it's even more so the story of Jim Gordon and his first year as a cop in Gotham City after transferring there from Chicago, I believe. Back when he was a detective with a young pregnant wife at home and long before he made commissioner. In fact, year one, like I said, is probably more about Gordon than Bruce. And it's unique in the fact that there's no supervillain. There's no actual big villain in there. The enemy is like the system, the current state of the police department and the city itself, which is a crime-infested nightmarescape reminiscent of New York City in the late 70s or 80s. So, Pat, let's talk about Frank Miller's Batman. First, I assume you've read it.
I've read parts of it. I have not read the whole thing. I was without power for the last few days before leading up to this, so my research time that I planned didn't exactly pan out. But anyway, I have read parts of it. I think Frank Miller is probably going to go down as the best Batman writer ever. His stuff is just great. So I do think that, like I say, it's interesting that we get more Jim Gordon. I think we're seeing that on the TV show Gotham as well. It's very, while it's not true to the comics and they kind of throw their own twists in there, it's very reminiscent of, following Gordon in his early career and, what makes him, because, let's face it, I honestly, if it was anybody but Gordon in that position, Batman probably wouldn't have the freedom that he has, and he probably wouldn't still be a free man. There's been a lot of times where Batman has been a fugitive, and Gordon's had to let him slip through his fingers because the police have got him. So I think it's cool to revisit Gordon's past and find out what made this man into the man that he is.
Yeah, I think it's incredibly written. When I picked it up and started reading it, I figured I'd read like the first maybe 10, 20 pages or whatever. It was late at night and the kids had finally gone down to bed and everything like that. And I figured I'd read a little bit before going to bed. And then I look up and it was 12:30 at night and I was on the last page. And I was like, it's just really friggin' well written. I mean, just really well written, especially for not having a bad guy in it other than the police department. And I love how the Batman Begins and The Dark Knight use so many of the characters and the elements, and there's plot points from year one that you see in all those movies. So I was glad to see like Nolan use those, and it feels after like reading year one, the two universes kind of feel connected. The Nolan movies in that book.
Yeah, it definitely helps tie them all together. I mean, we've already expressed our love for the Nolan movies, but I mean, I don't think you can say enough what a great job he did just capturing the whole darkness of Batman and the fact that he's such a tortured soul himself. He nailed it. He absolutely nailed it. The story just gelled so well and really gave you that feeling that you were watching a comic book movie without it being a tragedy like that first Hulk movie.
It almost didn't feel like a superhero book, like a story about a superhero, because it was all like just people, and most of the book he's not doing anything crazy Batman stuff. It's like mostly him, Bruce Wayne, trying to figure out how to address the stuff that he's seeing in the city. He first tries to like confront it, just dressed like a normal guy. He like tries to disguise himself a little bit so people don't realize it's Bruce Wayne. And he gets stabbed by a 12-year-old hooker and this kind of stuff. It kind of goes south. But I think a bigger question here that you just brought up, how like this tortured soul thing. Is Batman batshit crazy? I mean, like when you actually stop and think about it, is he just fucking off his rocker?
I mean, I'm sorry, but if I got stabbed by a 12-year-old hooker, I would avoid doing whatever it was that I was doing to get stabbed by a 12-year-old hooker. I wouldn't go back for more. So yeah, I would say he is.
Yeah, it's like I got the impression when I was reading, I'm like, this guy's severely mentally ill. I think everyone ignores the fact that he is severely mentally ill, and I think it stands out more when they take out the ridiculousness of like when you remove characters. I'm trying to think of like some of the crazier Batman villains, like the Mad Hatter and that kind of stuff. It just focuses just on the people, and you're looking at just Gordon and Bruce Wayne and him trying to figure out how to do this, and you're like, wait, as people, just like as people, like as a study of realistic people, he's off his rocker,
Yeah.
I mean, he's just like nuts.
There was a post I saw on Facebook once. It was a what if post, which I've said my love for these, and it was what if Batman is actually crazy and he is in Arkham Asylum, and then it listed a bunch of Batman villains, and it was like the Scarecrow is actually the guy that administers his drugs every day, his psychotic drugs every day. Harley Quinn is actually the chief nurse, and like the Joker was actually the warden of the Arkham Asylum, and it just went through a bunch of the bad guys and gave like, what if Batman, Bruce Wayne is actually crazy and these are normal people and they're actually just the people working at the asylum, and this is how he's viewing them, and these are the stories that he's telling himself in his head.
You just described season 2 of Mr. Robot.
Is that good? I know a little off topic.
Oh
really?
My god, it's so good.
Okay.
And it's well worth sitting down and watching. I mean, it's in like the top 3 favorite TV shows like last 5 years of mine. It's really good. And oddly enough, a girl who I used to date back in the day, she went to high school with the guy who created it and writes it.
Oh,
so it's almost related. We should put you on the show.
Yeah, she stayed over. I think she slept over his house because she was friends with his sister. At least that's what she told me. God knows what, But yeah, I think she said she like slept over the guy's house and everything at some point. So,
Pat, I did some research, and what you were talking about, because I had heard about what you're talking about. It is called Justice League: The Flashpoint Paradox. It's the Flash who gets screwed up with his timeline, and that's why Thomas Wayne becomes Batman. So it's out there. Is a movie, animated, of course. It's on Amazon, it's on YouTube, it's on Google Play. It's charging $3 for it or something, but it's out there. Excuse me. And a lot of great names. Kevin Conroy is in it. Dan Delaney's voice. Carrie Elwes, Nathan Fillion. So Ron Perlman. So it came out in a couple years ago.
Amazon Prime has like every single animated Batman movie like ever made. When I pulled up year one to watch that and prep for this, and you put in Batman, there's like 100 friggin' Batman movies on there. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, so it's basically the Flash story, and he gets zapped in the alternate timeline. He's got to go find all of his friends. Superman is hidden away by the U.S. government. He was raised by harsh government facility instead of with the Kents. Where I talked about Batman and Martha Wayne and stuff. So it sounds interesting. I knew I'd heard something about that in my past, but it's out there.
I will definitely have to watch that. It's just like such an interesting story to another twist on the classic Batman tale, if you will. So definitely have to watch that.
Absolutely. Sounds good.
Going back to my lack of Mr. Robot knowledge, I have a rule which I don't think I've shared with you guys, but I will not watch a TV show until I have 2 seasons of it. There was a TV show a while ago called The River, and it was fantastic in my opinion. And I watched all of season 1. And then it didn't get renewed. And these people are on a boat floating down the bayou, and we never knew what happened to them. So I said, you know what? Never again. Never again. So 2 seasons, and then I'm in. But Mr. Robot, I've heard a lot of good things about, so I'll definitely have to try that one out.
I do that sometimes myself, where I will wait for a show to finally go off the air and go back and watch all of them.
I did this
like a few seasons in.
Well, I didn't get into Walking Dead until like 3 seasons in. Not that I didn't think it was going to last, but I just, didn't consciously stay away from it, and just waiting for it to come back. And then AMC just showed them all back to back, and we caught up. So it's weird how you retroactively get into stuff. Unfortunately, and then you start watching something from the very beginning, and like Pat said, you like it, and then you're just so bummed when it gets, canceled or whatever.
Yeah, we just made a household rule after The River and just said, never again. We will not be duped by these networks into caring for characters.
Let's see. It's yes. Anywho, so
let's get to the Killing Joke.
Yes, the Killing Joke. It's not as gritty as year one, but it is. It's pretty brutal. It's pretty.
Well. Sorry, it is R-rated too.
Shot up my face with Novocaine. Anyway, it's pretty brutal. If you haven't read the graphic novel or watched the movie adaptation, which is excellent, by the way, the Killing Joke centers around Batman trying to reach out to the Joker and what might turn out to be their last confrontation. Pat, why don't you give us a little overview of the story? Because you've got a better accent than I
have. Again, this is one that I've read the graphic novel a while back, and I started watching the movie today. Like I say, no power, so no research. But Mark Hamill plays a great Joker in it, as always. Every time he ends up being the Joker, he's fantastic. You guys have to fill in the blanks, but basically, from what I remember, it's more of a Commissioner Gordon kind of story again, where the Joker actually ends up capturing him and holds him captive in a fairground, if I remember rightly. Am I correct with that?
Yeah, it's he actually buys a closed down amusement park. The Joker. Right. He escapes from Arkham Asylum, and then first thing he does is goes and buys an amusement park. Although it was funny, I thought, because like when Batman was hunting him down, the first place that Batman went, do you remember where he went first?
I don't.
He went to the hookers. And they told him that usually as soon as he breaks out, before it's even on the news, the Joker is down there with picking up one of the hookers. And they were like, we didn't see him this time.
No, you've been in jail for a while. That's the first place I want to go.
Well, have you seen Harley Quinn in Suicide Squad?
Yes.
I think I'd probably go home.
And that timeline, of course.
Yes, most definitely. She was not difficult to look at all. But really, the Killing Joke, like why Batman goes to Arkham Asylum in the beginning, is to reach out to him. Like he's having this conversation with him about like, we got to stop doing this. We have to stop trying to kill each other. And then the Joker escapes. Now, this is the graphic novel. This is not the movie. The movie has got all sorts of crap in it before the graphic novel picks up.
Yeah.
But
that's what I saw. I mean, I watched part of the movie today, and I was trying to fit it all in before the kids got home because, as I said, it is R-rated, which from the graphic novel, it had to be. It's one of those movies. It's like Deadpool, where you couldn't do a PG one or a PG-13 one. You know, if you were going to do it right, you had to make it right and do it R-rated. I've like I say, I've always been impressed with Mark Hamill's Joker. To me, he's just as much the Joker as he is Luke Skywalker. So I love him as the Joker. But yeah, I picked up. I'm sorry,
Luke who?
Skywalker.
Never heard of him.
but I love your hat, Pat.
Thank you. my son prefers the Jedi version, but
He's a bad guy.
I don't know. Yeah, hey, the villains.
I know. Pat is Darth Maul in his spare time.
My favorite Star Wars villain.
Really?
No. I feel like oh yeah, I mean I feel like that's probably a topic for another episode, but
yes, that is another podcast right there where we're going to discuss Pat's love for Darth Maul, and I'm going to fill up the hour just with you trying to justify honestly, that.
You could fill up the hour with my love for the prequels. I am one of the very few people.
Hey, you guys are not get along at all.
It's
I am one of the very
few
people.
Sit back and just have you guys go at it, and then I'm going to referee. I'll be in the middle. I was like, all right, move on. Let's go. That's him. Roger. Let's move on, please. So, all right, I'm there. I love
it, definitely. That'll be a fun one because, like I say, I mean, no doubt that they're not the best movies out of the Star Wars franchise, but at the same time, I do enjoy them. I don't have an issue with them.
Okay, tangent. Stop right there. Okay. Batman. Stick with Batman. We'll definitely come back to this.
So let's talk more about the Killing Joke. The little spoiler plot moment here. So if you don't want to spoil it, although it's right in the beginning of the book, it's like really close to the beginning of the book. Although it's like a point that's halfway through the movie, but still, if you don't want like anything at all spoiler, skip ahead. Okay, so the Joker, he straight out shoots Barbara Gordon, who is Batgirl, right through the abdomen, and he severs her spine with near surgical precision. Then he does things and photographs her in order to torture Jim Gordon with later. What did you think of the depiction of the violence against Barbara? Not just like the shooting, but what the Joker does with her afterwards. Like, I don't think that's been done with like Batman before, has it?
It's not. It's one of those moments where it's what makes it R-rated. It's what makes it a more adult comic. You know, I mean, I have comics that I would let my son read, and there are Batman comics that I would happily let my son read. But you know what? The Killing Joke is one that is for me. You know, it's one that when you get to a certain age, you'll get. And it's, I don't know. I feel like as adults who are into the comic books, you know, it's what sets it apart for us. You know, there's so many comic books that, you know, and so many people that look down on comic book geeks that say, you know what, they're for kids. You never grew up. Would you let your kid read this? I wouldn't. And it's what gives us that edge, you know, and it's one of those books that you can hand to somebody like that and say, read this, and they'll be going, holy shit, you know, what did I just read? And I feel like we need that. We need that at some points in our adult comic book life. So
I feel that way about what is it?
The world's a difficult place. You know, you can't just escape. You gotta put it everywhere. The world, you can't escape into the comic books from the world anymore. So the world is in the comic books. It's really annoying sometimes.
I felt that way about Preacher.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, a bunch of my buddies were into comic books, and I really was not into comics at all. But then I was in the store with them, like in the comic book store. I was constantly in the comic book store with them as they would pick up they would have boxes with their names on it that puts the comics aside. I'm sure everyone who has ever bought a comic knows what I'm talking about, and I'm trying to explain.
A pull box.
You already know. Yeah, and so, but I'm standing there in line, and I saw like Preacher #1, and I'm like, that looks like a badass comic. And so I picked it up and I started reading it there in the store, and I was like, yeah, I'm going to buy this. So I bought Preacher 1, and then I collected like the first 20 before I wound up like moving away and stuff like that, and I kind of fell out of touch with it. But they were just fantastic comics, and yeah, not for kids at all. Like, you know, my son is almost 17 years old, and I still would not be comfortable with him reading this. You know, it's like just so over the top, but it felt good because it was like the first comic book that I felt like, wow, this is like for my generation, you know, like for our sensibilities, and it's got that. It was violent but fun, you know, and just like really good storytelling. It was really about the characters and the story, and you could tell a writer just balls to the walls having fun.
Yeah, and like you just hit the nail on the head there. You said you were standing in the comic book store and you saw Preacher and said, "This looks like a good comic," and that's the thing. I mean, when you're looking at something like Batman, which there are 100 different versions of Batman comics that still come out every single week through DC. And you need one that it just catches your eye, and you say, you know what, that one looks good. And it's got to be a combination, you know, the art on the cover. It's got to be something, you know, where there's a storyline that's actually making news. One of the worst Batman stories in recent New 52 era history was Batman Inc., Batman Incorporated. And it's where he basically, you know, it's about a bunch of Batmans from all over the world. You know, you get an issue about the Japanese Batman. But the reason I got into that one is because it made news, because in issue 8, they killed Batman's son, Damian, who was acting as Robin at the time. And the fact that they killed Robin again, even though it's a different Robin, was just, it made news. So I went out and I bought issue 8. And while I'm buying issue 8 to read about how they killed Robin again, I asked the guy, "Hey, do you have the first 8 of these or the first 7 of these?" "Yeah, sure." So I ended up buying all 8 of them, and I sat there and I read it, and the story wasn't great, and it wasn't what I wanted, but holy shit, they killed Robin, you know, and I wanted to find out and get to that point of how they managed it. And by the time you've invested in 8 issues, you're pretty much hooked, and I ended up seeing the series through. But you've either got to have the catchy artwork or a story that makes headlines, otherwise people just aren't gonna pick it off of a shelf when they've got 100 other options of the same character. So that's really a testament to things like, you know, Nightfall and obviously The Killing Joke was a novel, but you know, even the newer stuff that is coming out, the fact that it's sticking around for so long and the stories are still going is really cool, because there's so many options out there.
Oh, yeah, I go into the comic book store now, and I'm like looking at the wall of comics, and I have like no idea what to even start with these days. I go and looking for like back issues of Stephen King's The Dark Tower, or even old Preacher comics to fill in the log that I don't have. Even though I sold
and Nightfall,
but what's that? Oh, and you know, I'm not. I don't know. I don't know if I should be looking for them in the store or just stick with eBay, because I got like an awesome deal on those 9. I think it was like $7 for 9 comics. It was like nuts. And dude, they're in really good shape too. I mean, just really, really good condition.
I love eBay for comics, and I'm a big supporter of local comic book stores. I know we talked about that on the Walking Dead issue, and I encourage people to go out to their local stores. But you know, sometimes you can get really good deals off of eBay, and it's still supporting a store, because you know, I know all of our local stores have eBay accounts that they sell on so that they can, you know, distribute far and wide. But I actually got the Negan connecting covers, which is issue 97 through 103 of Walking Dead, and I think I paid like $20 for them, and now they're, you know, $200 for the set, and I ended up getting the 2 issues where Abraham dies and then Glenn dies. I got them both signed by Abraham and Glenn from the show.
Really?
So it turned into this awesome collection for me now, and the connection covers are so hard to come by, and I ended up getting them for a great price off eBay because they just come out. So I agree with you. eBay is definitely good, but I also love trekking through the dollar bins in the comic store and just picking out some random shit that you have no idea what it is. And you know, local comics at comic book conventions. I actually have a friend who I actually connected with through doing that. I walked by his booth at the comic book convention, and he stopped me and said, "Hey, can I tell you about my comic?" I said, "Sure." And he ran through it, and it's a horror comic, and he actually ended up going to the same university as my wife, and I bought all of his issues off of him, and I read them all, and I loved him, and I connected with him on Facebook, and he now sends me his issues, just like, "Hey, read this one, tell me what you think." And,
What's it called?
and
Plug 'em.
the comic book is called Death to Dinksville. It's a very good comic. It's a lot of horror references. If you're a horror movie fan, you're gonna love it. The guy's name is Jose Tunglo. I'll send you his link, and if you guys are interested, hit him up and talk to him about his comic. But he's just a normal guy trying to get his way through school, and he draws and writes his own comics and self-publishes, and he's a really nice guy. Definitely worth a read. He does some crazy comics as well. There's one about Nazi werewolves that is just out there and crazy. But he sent it to me and was just like, "Hey, do me a favor, read this and let me know what you think." So again, just a really cool one-shot book, but just a little plug for him. He's a good guy, and his books are really good.
Yes, send us his info, and we'll put it on our Facebook page there.
Absolutely.
You know what? Slowly working our way back to the
topic at hand.
The Killing Joke. Yeah. What? Even after the Joker severs Barbara's spine and leaves her paralyzed, Batman still tries to reach out to the Joker. He offers him rehabilitation. And I'm not sure that I buy that. At least
I think I'd have killed him.
Not insane, Yeah.
I think at that point,
go ahead.
I think at that point, if it was me, you're almost too far gone for that, for the rehabilitation at that point. And as the readers, I think we can see this, but it goes back to your comment about, is Batman just as crazy as everybody else in all the villains? Yeah, he is, and he's just got this relentless. He refuses to give up on them, and whereas us as rational people are saying, yeah, you know what, I think I'd be giving up on this guy now and just doing whatever I had to do to take him out and make everybody safe. Bruce Wayne doesn't see it that way. He's just as crazy, but in a different way. So he's still doing his reaching out and trying to connect with him and trying to fix him. And I guess the psychologist in me wonders whether or not, because he couldn't save his parents, he's trying to save everybody else. Something along those lines. But I'd like you say, I think I'd have given up on the Joker a long time before any of this happened.
We know the ending, and okay, another spoiler. I know we're getting to the end of the episode, but another spoiler. So again, skip ahead to whatever next podcast you were going to listen to, Missing Richard Simmons, maybe.
I love Richard Simmons.
Have you listened to Missing Richard Simmons, the podcast?
No.
I'm sorry, I thought you were just making that up.
No, it's a real podcast. It's only 6 episodes. They're about to drop the last one. But oh my God, fascinating. He's been missing since 2014. Just dropped out of sight and left everything behind. And it's one of his old friends or someone and this guy doing this podcast is trying to hunt him down and find out what's really going on with him. But anyway, trying to stay with Batman just for the one last thing is at the very end, Batman and the Joker are kind of confronting each other. They're not fighting each other. They're just standing there. And the Joker explains to Batman, I'm never going to be rehabilitated. I'm never going to play nice. I'm never going to agree to let's have a truce or whatever. And then he tells Batman this joke, and the killing joke, I guess. And the Joker starts laughing, and then Batman starts laughing. And then both in the comic and in the movie, it pans away from them. And the last thing you hear is just Batman laughing, but not the Joker laughing anymore. It's kind of an ambiguous ending. But Pat, did Batman kill the Joker at that point? Was the fact that the Joker wasn't laughing anymore, but Batman was? Is that him strangling the life out of the Joker?
I don't think so. I think that personally, I think that's him letting the Joker go so that they can continue their dance forever, as the Joker, pointed out that that's what they're gonna do. I think the Joker ended up just going away, and they continued this dance another time, and continued to hunt each other and torture each other for the rest of their days. Like I say, I'm a big Joker fan. I would be very upset to think that he was gone in any of the universes, and they wouldn't be getting him back. So one of the reasons I didn't like the Injustice video game, when Superman actually killed the Joker at the beginning of the video game, because somewhere the best villain in comic book history has just been killed, and it doesn't sit well with me. So no, I think Batman ended up letting him go, because I said it before, but I feel like Batman needs him as well.
Yeah, I think in the context of just that story, though, I think that would have been a bridge too far for Gordon. I don't think Gordon would have, after all that he did, paralyzing his daughter, and then everything he did to her and took photographs of and then showed Jim, and then Batman's got to go back and say, well, I let him go because we got that thing going on where
if he's not the Joker, am I Batman? Because I'm Batman.
Yeah, it's that whole Jim.
So you think he killed him?
That's the impression that I got the first time I read it, but I kind of read it as like a bookend to year one. Like year one is the beginning, and then like Batman the Killing Joke, it felt like an ending of a long storyline, Right. So I could see their story ending like that, because the Joker finally took things too far. It wasn't like he was just killing someone random. He paralyzed and violated someone close to Batman. So
let me ask you this: if Batman did kill the Joker, would that mean that technically the Joker won?
Well, I guess it depends on who you ask. If you ask the Joker, since he's dead and can't answer you, I would say no. But to your bigger point there that I'm trying to avoid, yes, the Joker would have won.
Right.
Just like it's like the end of Seven, right?
Yes.
Where
absolutely.
He wins because he got those last two sins out of Brad Pitt.
Brad Pitt.
What's in the box?
Exactly. And so that would be. I could definitely see your point with the ending up strangling him and killing him.
But you couldn't be more wrong. You just couldn't be more wrong. You could try, but you wouldn't succeed. No,
I would still count that as a Joker victory, because I think he would have proven that this untaintable good force in Batman actually has a dark side as well. So I would still chalk that up as a Joker victory either way. I don't think Batman leaves out of that book winning.
I agree 100%, because he's either going to turn his back on the people that he's closest to, or he's going to give up his morals, like his code, everything that he supposedly stands for.
I don't know if he was in jail at one time. He could have just taken it back to jail, left him alive.
Yeah, but they even make a reference, like he constantly breaks out. That's what the hookers were saying, was that every time he breaks out of Arkham Asylum, so like the idea is he can't be held. He's always going to get out, no matter where they put him. He's always going to get out, at least in the comic book universe, because they're behind bars permanently is the same thing as him being dead.
Yeah. But let me ask you guys this real quick. So the Christopher Nolan movies, he gets put assumedly in Arkham Asylum after The Dark Knight. Does he get out when Bane is breaking everybody out of the prison? Do you think the Joker gets out and disappears, and that's why we don't see him again? Or do you think they held him in those movies? I know we'll never find out, because the series has ended, but where do you think his story went in there after he was locked up?
I think he probably escaped and made his way to Metropolis, and then Superman killed him. Now, I you know, if it's like one of those like what ifs, like what would you like to have seen happen if Heath Ledger had lived?
Yeah.
I would have loved to seen him escape. However, the fact that Batman gives up being Batman, like fakes his own death, kind of tells me that he feels that the Joker is taken out of the picture and that he hasn't escaped, that he's still secure somewhere, and that Gotham can go on without Batman.
Right.
Or at least that it's Robin's problem now.
Yeah, that's one thing I was going to bring up. I would love to have seen what Robin did. You know, I think the way that they brought Robin into that at the end was fantastic. It was very well done. If you didn't read spoilers, you wouldn't have had a clue that he was going to be Robin. And you know, I think that they did excellent bringing Robin into it.
I agree. I had no idea. I hadn't read the comics. And the fact that he was a cop. You know, he was like a good cop, and now he's taking
over for Batman. I'd love to see an extension of that and see another movie. Maybe something where, you know, Batman comes back to train him or something, and I'd love to see an extension of that story.
Yeah, even maybe without Christian Bale, maybe just have it be Robin's story. I'd love like Christopher Nolan to go back and like explore that character.
Yeah,
I think.
Yeah, I agree.
Total wish list thing, you know.
Absolutely.
Yeah, Joseph Gordon-Levitt, I'd love to see him as Robin.
Yes, but anyway, we're going to wrap up this episode. But man, I cannot tell you how much fun it is having you on here, Pat.
Well, thank you. I always enjoy it, guys.
What about me?
Guys, that's both of you.
No, I was talking to Ryan. You know.
Oh.
Yeah, no, I don't even know why you're here, man. It's
I don't know.
If it wasn't for that court order,
I know. You know,
but, and also, thank you, Pat, for being on last week's show, where you filled us in on everything going on The Walking Dead. That was
No problem at all.
that was fantastic. Even though it was only like a little 15-minute segment, it was still awesome.
No problem at all.
So we're going to wrap this up. If you have any questions or comments, or you want to let us know that you subscribe to the podcast in order to win this book here behind me, the Killing Joke, it's the deluxe hardback edition, and I will mail it to you, blah, 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 that kind of good stuff. So don't forget, email us at geekbnb@gmail.com. That's geekbandb. You can also follow us on Twitter at geekbnb. We are on Instagram at geekbnb, although I don't ever put anything on Instagram except pictures nobody wants to see. And then we're on Facebook at facebook.com/geekbnb. You can probably just like type in geekbnb and we'd come up. But we sometimes post cool things there, maybe once a month. Depends. Sometimes I forget we have a Facebook account because we're terrible at this, and I don't really care. But I love doing the podcast, and I love all of you for listening. And thank you again, Pat, for being here. And
You're welcome.
man, I'll talk to you geeks later.
See ya.
Later.